Alright guys, today's video is of my latest project, refinishing a dresser. So I've actually never owned a dresser, and we didn't have one, so I decided to go on Facebook Marketplace to grab one, because the dressers that are made nowadays aren't exactly high quality. So my only guidelines were I wanted something made of mostly solid wood and not in too terrible of a shape. So fortunately, I was able to find one off Facebook Marketplace and picked it up pretty close to me and and got to work. So originally, I was just going to sand the whole dresser down and either paint or stain it. As the project moved along, decided to do some other things. Decided to elevate it a little bit. As you can see, I added some trim, so I had to cut trim to size. And install it onto the drawer faces. That wasn't too much of a challenge to get it measured up and everything. Now the handles did present quite a few challenges. So we opted for 3-inch and 5-inch spread bronze gold pull handles. Originally they just had single pull knobs. I ended up drilling holes that I thought were straight, but they weren't. I mean, I had measured from the edges of each drawer face, but the problem was I didn't account for the fact that they were slightly offset just due to the nature of the original construction. So how did I deal with that? Well, first I had to plug the holes that I drilled improperly. You can't just use wood filler because that's just hardened silica, and that's not sturdy enough for a screw to grab onto. So I went and got some dowels, some hardwood dowels, and I plugged those holes with the dowels with some wood glue. I had to cut them flush. I used an oscillating multi-tool for that, and it worked out. It worked out better than I thought it would. And before I drilled the new holes, what I did to make that straight line is I used a self-leveling laser level, and then made my marks. So now I know, it's definitely a straight line all the way across. And then I drilled my new holes. So solved a couple problems there with the handles. The screws for the handles that came with the handles were a bit too short. And fortunately, I had amassed quite a collection of screws from just previous furniture assembly projects, but they were too long. Not a problem. I got some bolt cutters and cut them to size, and then used a file to smooth out any rough edges. And so that was it for the handles. Some other things to probably take note of, just that I learned through this project, is you want to start with. I started with 180 grit, the first sanding, and then I moved up to, I believe, 240 grit. So the 240 grit is for once you've laid on that first coat of paint. So in between coats of paint, you use that higher grit. It just allows you to scuff up the surface just enough without really taking off much material. So for that paint to grab onto. So that's me using that higher grit. And then the last thing is, you use a paintbrush to get the surfaces that a foam roller can't get, but going over what you can with the foam roller is pretty important to eliminate any of those little bubbles and streaks. So overall, project was a huge learning experience. Learned a lot. And yeah, I mean, now I have a dresser. Do it yourself.